Hey everyone, welcome back to Pro AV. Today, I am your host, Ben Thomas. Today, we're talking about collaboration in AV. It's never been more important than it is today, not only between end users and suppliers and integrators, but actually hardware manufacturers themselves. And to talk about that topic, I brought on some of the brightest minds in AV today, some of the best people to talk about collaboration. Joining me now, we've got Greg Harper, Cory Schaeffer of QSC, Mike Reilly from Barco, and Charlie Jones from Sennheiser. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, Greg, we'll have you kick us off. I know you're kind of the industry pro and the industry vet here for the longest, but talk to me about where we are in the life cycle of collaboration. I know the AV of old really was a little bit more focused on proprietary protocols and hardware and kind of all-in-one solutions. Where are we today in the life cycle of AV collaboration?
Well, of course, the pandemic has accelerated things much faster than I think any of us expected. With the opening of Teams and Zoom meetings and people being able to do this from their homes or their offices, all of a sudden there's an expectation. So it used to be you have to go to a specific room to have a video conference, not anymore. Now you can do it from your desk, from your car, from your iPhone, wherever you happen to be. So it's changed the notion, and no longer is it like audio conference. I mean, I remember not too long ago that conference call was an audio call. I mean, you had your Polycom speakerphone on the thing. Well, yeah, I've still got one here, but I rarely use it because everything I do is on a Zoom or Teams call. So that has changed the pandemic, and the pandemic has changed the expectation of what we're doing. So now the challenge is, how do you create rooms? How do you create spaces where it makes sense to go into that space? Because if I have everything at my desk and I have a great camera, a good microphone, why do I want to go into a room? So what can I build in a room that will make it a better experience than sitting at my desk? And so that's what I've been working on. There's a background here, as you can see. There's a room I'm working on at the Gateway. That's a multi-screen experience. So it's a Zoom experience, but it's Zoom rooms. But again, we set it up such a way that we can see the active speaker, we can either share, we can see the Hollywood squares, we can move the images around. You also don't want to have microphones in your face. So we're using the Sennheiser ceiling microphones. And then if you have that, well, guess what? Now I can have cameras that will track and find the people. And I don't have to sit there with my touch control trying to zoom in on somebody or give me a wide shot where I've got little tiny people. So when you start thinking about what the capabilities are of some of the technology, you bring all that together, you can create a much better experience in the conference room than you did before. That's the challenge.
Well, thank you for that answer, Greg. And I love that you brought up that background behind you. It's actually one of the things that we'll talk about today. And, I'll take that same kind of idea and that same question and kick it to Cory next. Cory, I think you've got such a unique insight, really kind of overseeing the strategic alliances and partnerships over at QSC. How, we could even use the Gateway as an example here. How is that a project really that requires collaboration between companies, manufacturers, and even in Greg on the integration and design side? Mm-hmm.
So I think, to just kind of riff a bit on what Greg was mentioning, people want a different experience when they now come back to the office, because we've all now had these great experiences available to us at home, right? So, but when you go and you're looking into a meeting room and you just kind of see that long room and you can't really make out faces, it's really important now to pull in collaboration with other partners, because there are lots of USB cameras out there and, this plug and play, super easy, solutions. But now when we go into a room, we need more than just one USB camera. We need to be able to add more things so we can zoom in and be able to get the reactions of the people in the room to the far end. And we just need to have better experiences. And not when we are able to partner with other companies, we're able to deliver what the end user is really looking for, because none of us have everything that every end user needs. So when we're open to collaborating and not just trying to push all of our own wares, but really thinking about the use case and what's best for the customer in their space and delivering the best experience we can by leveraging these other relationships that we have and bringing in things like automation, so that just kind of all of these things. And when we're keen to the market and we're keen to the other partners that might have that, and we're open to bringing them all together, what we deliver to the end user is a much better experience. That's what we all want.
And Charlie, one of the things that I love about the room, and Greg mentioned a second ago, was that Sennheiser mic. But if you kind of see it, it's a little bit more non-traditional than typically what Sennheiser has designed in the past. But you guys have done a great job for so long, really building tools and building products that can exist in any kind of ecosystem. Talk to me a little bit about, when we're thinking about that collaboration, how does that actually go into your product design and hardware manufacturing process?
Great question, Ben, because at Sennheiser, I think we just wrapped up our 77th year, I believe, in the audio industry. And one of the things that we're very proud of is that we're still owned and controlled by the Sennheiser family. So the good news is when the world stops turning, it's not that big of a deal. We don't have shareholders and all this that we have to keep happy, and we can kind of stay the course. But the flip side of that is that we don't necessarily have $1 billion R&D budget. So we got to pick and choose where can we have the most impact. And so to your point, Ben, the ceiling tile microphone has been a very successful product for us. It's something that we were able to build on our expertise in the audio acoustic space and look at, okay, but what is it that the customer really wants? So, when Greg Harper approaches us and says, hey, look, we've got this beautiful room, but nobody wants to see golf balls hanging from the ceiling. And, anything that you put in front of someone, they typically move to the side or they pull down the gooseneck. We've all seen it like, don't do that. We need to hear them. And so that's where our approach has been, rather than, like you said, traditionally try to create everything from start to finish. We say, let's do what we do best, the microphones. And we can work with people like Cory at QSC to say, hey, we can tell you where the audio beam is focused from the microphone. Can you maybe have your camera do something with that? And Cory is like, well, sure, we can have the camera follow the audio, which then gives the end user experience more what they're used to, which, like to Greg's point, the Hollywood squares. All of us are used to now having a great up close view. We can read facial expressions. We can see what people's body language is saying. That's not possible if you got the Vladimir Putin shot from 900 miles away at the end of the table. Now Mike at Barco, he's got a however big display that you need, and he's got some really cool wireless technologies that he can use to cast things no matter how far it's got to go. And so that's where for us, it's, rather than Sennheiser trying to create these things, let's partner with other people in the industry that also have their niches that they do extremely well, so that the power of all of us together beats the hell out of something that any one of us would be able to come up all by ourselves.
Well, Charlie, you bring up a really great point. And Mike, this next question is for you. We talk about and kind of make fun in a lot of ways of the Hollywood square style approach, but really you guys over at Barco are doing fantastic things and innovating different uses and purposes and even flexibilities for screens and displays. Talk to me a little bit about that, even with Charlie's context of the Hollywood squares approach.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think when you look at the UCC space, we're on the visual side, right? So we have a simple product like ClickShare where you can bring it in, and then also pull in those resources that are connected to it. But then you get to more of a complex room, an executive boardroom, or like the room like the view we're talking about here. In this case, we have a very wide screen. It's an abnormal aspect ratio, so we need to create the content, and then we need to pull in all the different sources. So working with QSC and Sennheiser and everybody else, and Greg, the end user, to find out what they want, really assisting tying everything together. And then it was how many different sources do you want to have on the screen? Well, now in a Teams room or a Zoom room, we may have 3 different windows and sources coming out of that overall appliance. And the question is, well, how are we going to create this overall experience, which is far better than what you're going to get at your desktop in a room meeting, where the camera and the mics and all this other activities going along, really bringing the far end much closer into the room like they're there, right? So it really does take, I think we're talking about kind of everybody here collaborating together to provide the experience that our guests, our clients are going to come and expect to see and hear when they join us in the room.
And just to speak a little bit more on collaboration, that I wanted to say as well is what was really great about this project and this collaboration is that Greg brought us together, but we were already together collaborating, meaning we all had verified our solutions worked well together. We had done, extensive testing, et cetera. So then when they are brought in, the end user gets this confidence that all the 3 of us company, we're going to support it because we've already verified and certified the solutions.
Yeah, and I mean, the space is actually pretty interesting because everybody brings something to the table, and everything interops and works together. So, I mean, we started off with the Sennheiser microphone. Well, that obviously does great audio pickup. It also sends the data to the QSC system. The QSC system interprets that data and moves the cameras. And then with the DSP in there, automatically does the echo cancellation and manages all that. But then on top of all that, there's the control layer because the QSys system has a whole control layer. So there's actually a touch screen in there, and I can even program that myself. I'm not it's pretty cool. But then you add in everything's over IP. So all of that room, everything is connected. There are no HDMI cables running back and forth. It's all IP connectivity. And you add in the video wall that Barco provided. It's a 1.2 millimeter video wall. It's really great. But it also has the ClickShare connected to it. So if you come in and you want to, just share to it, it works. But then it gets even better. Because we have people doing Teams and Zoom because at the chamber, we're not necessarily limited. It's like one company where we say everyone's got to do Teams or got to Zoom. So one person comes in and one meeting might do Teams, next meeting comes to do Zoom or Blue Jeans or whatever it's going to be. So we actually have presets set up. So here's a 2-screen Zoom room. Here's a widescreen Teams room. Here's a 3-screen Zoom room. Here's a 1-screen Teams Blue Jeans room. Whatever you want, and all of these are options. They're just on the touch panel. But then let's say we didn't figure it out. Let's say you've come up with some crazy idea that we didn't know about. Well, you bring your laptop in, you connect it to the ClickShare, and all of a sudden, all of this data goes back to ClickShare. So the cameras, the microphone, the display is now reaching your laptop wirelessly. And now you can run whatever software you want in your laptop and take advantage of the remote capability. So it's really a pretty interesting combination of things.
Well, Greg and Cory, you guys bring up a great point. And Cory, I want to stick on the point that you made for a second. There is a proactive collaborative approach now, right?
Yeah.
It's Charlie, you talked a second ago about working with Cory and the QSC team about making sure that there's not any audio beams in the way. Those are things that are happening before really Greg ever even comes to the table, which is great. But, talk to me a little bit. I mean, we've kind of lived in this secret world, Charlie, where people want to reveal products and kind of hide things from their competitors, and now we live in this world that Cory mentioned where we're proactively collaborating. Talk to me a little bit about how those proactive collaborations kind of organically start, Charlie.
Absolutely. Good. So my role at Sennheiser is just that, is managing all of these partnerships and things. And when I first started in this role, half a dozen years ago, you could count our partnerships on one hand, and they really were all very self-serving, and you could tie them to a particular project, right? Oh, we need to do this for the European Congress. Okay, we did it. But to your point, Ben, as things have evolved, this need to keep it all in-house, to have the walled garden approach, we were happy in our little industry with our little walled gardens, and then the whole IT-AV convergence that we're all sick and tired of hearing about. Why? Because we lived it. It happened. It's done. And guess what? All of us that were giant fish, turns out we were in a little pond. And now we're in this giant ocean with Microsoft, with Zoom, Logitech. These guys have access to budgets and R&D that we could never dream of. If Barco and Sennheiser and QSC and Crestron, if we all teamed up together, we equal like Microsoft's internal coffee shop's budget for a week. So we can't say, oh, you know what, if you take it or leave it, right? We have to find a way to work together. And to Greg's point, give people a reason why these rooms are more compelling and have a better experience than what they're going to have sitting in front of their tablet or in front of their computer. And so for us, the Partnership Alliance thing has really been about moving that collaboration to the forefront and saying, look, rather than us try to tell you, the Greg Harper of the world, or a system designer or a consultant, or even an end user, this is what kind of system you have to use, we say, look, we play well with everybody. And that way, Greg can pick out the right parts and pieces for his customer, for his room, and we can make sure that those people have the best experience possible with Sennheiser. And then tomorrow we rinse, lather, repeat, and do it with maybe a different partner. But the whole idea is that we can't continue to live on our little foxhole. We've got to realize that we're part of a much bigger ecosystem now than we were in the past.
And just to riff on that a bit too, Charlie, is we're better together. Meaning, we as partners, we have non-disclosure agreements that we sign or whatever, as we begin the relationship. But as we start our relationship, we're building trust. And we can then say to each other, hey, I want to pull you in on this, but I need you to stay in your lane because I know you've got some things that might approach over here, but I need you to stay in your lane. And it's a little bit of a test of trust, right? And then when we do that, we have built trust and we definitely are better together. And we know we're serving the customer better. And, it's just really a win-win, but it's just a relationship, right? That's built on trust. But once we have that, we're thinking about other ways to do, because we don't have the budgets, as Charlie mentioned, that some of these other companies have, but together we can do a lot of amazing things.
And Mike, I'll let you chime in on this too.
Yeah.
Cory brings up a really good point where even in competitive markets, right? I think Barco does a great job of this because I can name 20,000 display manufacturers, but in a lot of ways, even if I don't have a Barco display, the tools that you guys build and the tools that you guys help integrate actually still function on my Samsung TV or my Absent video wall. You guys really have built the tools in a way to be collaborative. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So one of the big things when you talk about having all these different sources and resolutions and everything else, and you're talking about a video wall or projection mapping or whatever, our image processing really is one of the bookmarks in that overall business, tying everything together and creating those overall experiences for people. And that's big, right? And I think, and I was an integrator for a long time, and it was always like, is it really going to work or not going to work? That was always a big problem that really was out there. So when we talk about experience, I think a lot of time it's the whole getting it going, getting it working, and that smooth transition, right? So I think to Cory and Charlie's point of collaborating and talking about it before the project gets done is important. And then it makes it when we go and implement it with the partner, the end users, that is all successful, right? But I think at the same time, Barco is kind of one of those companies that's kind of behind the scenes, like in the room there. You don't know that's a Barco LED. You don't know that there's Barco image processing behind that. You may see the Barco click share icon or something like that there, but we're kind of one of those best kept secrets that you don't know. And there have been times where there's somebody else's LED and they've got our image processing behind it, right? So I think like Cory says, hey, sometimes there's a lane that you need to stay in to fill this role for this application for whatever the reasons might be. And I think everybody at this era is really more than okay with saying, okay, great, let's do this. This is my lane. This is where I'm going to go. Let's give the client and the end user the experience that they want. And I'm all in, right? So I know we're doing that across the board. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, and Ben, I'm just thinking as we're talking here, I had an opportunity to see the Sennheiser microphone many years ago. It was still in prototype. I saw the QSC ideas for QSYS before there was even a product out there. The same with the Barco ClickShare. I was in Belgium when it was still a prototype and it was still wires coming out of a box. The thought of all these things coming together and actually working as one whole system where you actually are cooperating again, it's fantastic. I mean, you saw the advantage of these different products, but they weren't all siloed. And now they all talk to each other. That's great. Now you add video over IP, you add Dante and you get other things of that nature. Now you've got capabilities going way beyond it. But at the end of the day, I always say, while we are worried about whether it's Barco ClickShare or Sennheiser Team Connect or QSC, the user walking in the room doesn't know that, doesn't care about that. They want the experience. And I've often said my job is more of a psychology job than it is a technology job. You want to walk in the room, you want to have an experience, you want to have a meeting. You're there for a meeting, you're not want to be sitting there pushing buttons and touch panels and all the rest. You just want to walk in the meeting, walk in the room, have a meeting, have it go properly, do the business you're supposed to do in that meeting, and then walk away. And all the rest has to happen. And that's where this collaboration between these various partners has come really full circle. I mean, we don't have Zoom on here or Teams, but they're all part of the equation as well. But that's exactly what happens. People come in. And at Gateway, You mentioned the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce. It is a not-for-profit organization. Gateway is sort of a place where people come to have a place to work in New York. And we have, ranging from the chairman of Verizon to some startup people coming in, including royalty, believe it or not, using the room. And they really don't know and care what the technology is. They just care they can have a good meeting. And these guys have come together and they really do get a good meeting. And they get to see what's happening.
On this particular project also, there was collaboration on everything. So not only did we already know that we were verified, certified, to work together, but there was great collaboration on everything. Anytime something came up on this project, all of us got together to discuss it. When we decided to promote it, we all got together in how we would do that and what role each company would take. We all were sharing information and assets and deciding, how could we support each other? And that's also something that just really makes these alliances and partnerships so important.
Yeah.
Right. And if I can add real quick, one of the other great things here is we all worked together. We made sure it was going to work. We know it works. There's no dedicated AV/IT person for this space. So you've got people coming in from all around the world, have never walked in the room before, have never seen it. They go in and they're very easily just to navigate what they want to do, have the experience they want, end the call and then go. They got complete flexibility with using their computer, using what's in there, Teams, Zooms, Blue Jeans, whatever you may have. And it just works. And that's the best part about it, right? Is that you really go ahead.
And so, the Gateway Room was sort of my lab, and that was a place to test things out. And we proved the concept. But you should know that this is not the only room I've done that uses these technologies. So Barco video walls, Sennheiser Team Connect. I need more microphones, Charlie. You don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm buying them as fast as I can get them, and I see one in your picture.
You're going through a tunnel there, Greg. You're breaking up a little. Supply chain.
And Cory, I'm trying to buy cores, and I literally had to go buy them on eBay because we're rolling out lots of these things. So I can't tell you how many cores and Sennheiser microphones and Barco walls and processors I put out there already. But this is just one room. There are dozens of these rooms going out for lots of different clients and lots of different needs. And I'm deploying QSC stuff in Asia for distance learning. I'm deploying Sennheiser microphones at large banks in New York for controlling very senior meeting rooms. We've got Barco video walls all over the place. Not to mention the processor, because we didn't mention that, but that video wall is driven by a Barco E2, which means that I can actually move things around and change it very nicely. And those have been rolling out. So this is an opportunity for us to test these out with real users, see how they work, and then lots of people come in and have deployed it from there.
Ben, to your point, just to kind of bring this full circle, it precisely because we were working together is why we were able ahead of time, right? The reason we've been laying this foundation now for years is precisely why we were able to successfully implement this room, the one that's in Greg's background, the one that we were talking about at the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce, in the midst of a pandemic where it was not possible for any of us to send our engineers on site like we would have traditionally done for these sort of applications and say, hey guys, the crown princess of a Scandinavian country is going to be using the room. It needs to work. Well, there's a pandemic going on. We can't send technicians just to go by there and check in on things. So to Mike's point, combined with the fact that there's not a dedicated person, it had to work. And that's where the nice thing is, by doing our homework ahead of time, we could tell Greg, yes, this is going to work, have at it. But of course, Greg always challenges us to take it to the next level. And that's why we love working with Greg. So, yeah.
The exciting thing about really all of this is that it boils down to in Pro AV, there's been a renewed focus on the customer and the end user. And it's something that manufacturers, integrators, installers have all seen. And it's exciting to really see the next steps in the industry, right? As we continue to collaborate, as we continue to build products and tools that are effective for our end users, that's what's going to continue to grow the industry as we expand into education, IT. I mean, you named it. We're now competing against Microsoft, which even 10 years ago was like, we're fine. We'll leave them alone. But the more that we could continue to focus on the operability, the end user experience, the customer experience and value, will continue to drive excellence in AV. And with that, we'll kind of wrap this up. Guys, I appreciate you coming on the show today and look forward to seeing you guys out on the trade show circuit this summer.
All right, great.
Absolutely. Can't wait for these in-meeting persons again.
Yeah.
In-person meetings again. So thanks, Ben. Appreciate you having us.
And thank you for tuning in today. Make sure to tune in to our next episode of Pro AV Today.